Welcome to this edition of First the Citizens. Today on First the Citizens, we will be talking something that is making the headlines across the country. The electoral season is upon us, and yet, for some reason, we have never gone about it with some sort of confusion. Today, we will be discussing the Ugandan approach to a scientific election. Is it going to be free and fair? Will we participate? And so many more that come with an election cycle. My name is Jacob Bayero, and you can join us, of course, with questions and comments on our Facebook page, that's Face the Citizens. But you can also continue this conversation through our various social media platforms when you find the time. To help us understand this, we will be talking to a couple of people, but just to draw you into the perspective, Uganda has a cycle that by law mandates that the president, for example, must be elected every 5 years and counting. Each time we go to that, there are rallies that have to happen and people meet their candidates. But in this year, we are likely not to have that. The Electoral Commission has now issued two different guidelines, and that is the first electoral roadmap that had to be undone by the second. Why? Because COVID prevails. Today we'll be discussing that second roadmap and whether the guidelines therein or envisaged therein shall hold, but also whether that is a representation of democracy that we want as a people or that we should postpone if we can't afford. Helping us to understand this, we have welcoming our panelists, Madam Rita Achiro, the Executive Director of the Ugandan Women's Network. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
We also have the Honorable, and for many of you at home, this might be a new district, the Honorable Ayo Tony, the Member of Parliament for Kwania County in Kwania District. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe for the benefit of us viewing us, where is Kwania in this country?
Thank you. First of all, Kwania is among the old counties of the colonial times.
Okay.
But was in the district of Apache.
Oh, okay.
And 2 years ago, it was carved out of Apache, and it's a district on.
So there is Kwania District.
There's Kwania District on Lake Kwania. So
on Lake.
I hope the youth here are aware where Lake Kwania is. Then from there, the rest is Kwania County.
I am sure, like for many of you at home, as it is for me, that's a very new lake. And it's also a new district, but it's only 2 years old. Let's get into it, and we'll start with Madam Achiro here. There is an understanding that we've had as Ugandans for some time now, since the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution. We've always known elections to be a gathering of people to listen to their people and their candidates so we can champion some sort of agenda through campaigns. We are now hearing that there is a possibility because of the pandemic for us to pursue what we now know as scientific elections. Let's start there. Do we need to survey things with democracy from your experience in this country? Is democracy something that you can throw this way and that way, testing here and testing there? Or is it a definite thing that should undertake a process involving many people and their leaders trying to be their leadership?
Well, thank you very much for that question. And I guess all of us out there know that we are in a situation of unprecedented times.
Yes.
The pandemic, COVID-19, is something that has taken the entire world by storm. And the response to COVID-19, given the fact that it's unprecedented, has been, in a way, what you'd call knee-jerk reactions, because this has never happened, and therefore nobody can claim that they have experience to it, even if it's medically, there's no experience to that fact. There are similar experiences, but not with COVID-19. But in the other aspects of life, the social, economic, and the political, there's no experience. So therefore, a number of things are being done in haphazard, in unplanned ways, trying to fit the puzzle as every occasion happens. And for that reason, our Electoral Commission and the government of Uganda is no exception. We're in the same situation. However, as you said, that our Constitution of 1995 is very clear that every 5 years we'll have elections. And this is clearly stipulated in our Constitution of 1995 from Chapter 1 to 7 that talks about these issues. So that is the beginning.
Okay.
Pandemic, no pandemic, we must have elections.
So we agree that the pandemic has had its effects and casualties.
What
we now need to know is if democracy should be included on that casualty list, because that seems to be a question that we control.
Yeah.
Should we permit that?
Yes. So the pandemic has happened. The Constitution is clear that we must have elections every 5 years. Now, what needs to happen is what we would call the situation leadership. Okay. The situation leadership that emerges to ensure that we balance this without compromising the democracy, first and foremost, yes, but also without endangering the lives of the citizens. So that is a tough balance, okay, and that requires situation leadership. So, and it should be done in a way that does not disenfranchise citizens from their citizenry roles and responsibilities in participating in a democratic process.
All right, thank you. Let me come to Honorable Ayo here, and let's start with where Madam left it. The necessity for participation in the electoral process is such that we can guarantee the democracy. It's such that we can have people not disenfranchised. The question is, if we are working towards free and fair elections, and I think that the word free there has always appeared to mean that people express themselves freely. If we are working with an electoral roadmap that does not permit that freedom, you don't gather, you don't go where you are, you don't gather people to encourage them in a particular way after voting, how then are we pursuing that freedom of free and fair elections?
Thank you so much, viewers. First of all, the power for putting in leaders in Uganda and for making any decision belongs to the people. Okay. And looking at our political history, the decision to make a constitution which is very rigid on elections was based on looking at the past and trying to make the future better. And that comes in with the involvement of the people on every decision making, including putting in leaders. Yes. So with the COVID-19, that we are trying to look at a new normal situation to put ourselves in it. The people are used to the form of elections where the leaders get to them. They get to know them physically, how they talk, their body posture, yes, plus a lot of activities of showing their support for the candidates they want. In that, they normally believe after elections, the election has been free because they have been free to participate and do whatever they wanted, and after casting votes, they will accept the results of election. Okay. Now, we are getting into a stage under the scientific where even when we used to use the radios, televisions, other social medias, print and Zoom, but it was not so much for some category of people, because now the question is free and fair involvement of the people. Which category of people are we going to reach with the scientific one? And who are the majority of people who are going to participate in the scientific campaigns?
The voters themselves. What do you mean who are going to participate?
The question of who is because are these medium of campaigns reaching every corner of the country so that we believe they have all participated?
All right, Honorable, we're going to talk about the benefits of what comes out of it, whether we have that participation, inclusivity or not. But let's start with the involvement of the people themselves. Was it okay for the Electoral Commission to just say this is how it will be, even if it is by law their mandate? Is it okay if it's going to affect people to that extent?
I think that was not very okay. Because you first of all needed to ask people to give in their input. Okay. If they believe by going scientific and with a roadmap which is almost like a school examination timetable, yes, this after the other and then the other, and even before you get there, so many laws have to be amended for that kind of elections to take on. So that was not okay, because we first needed the Electoral Commission to have all the stakeholders and all those participating to give in their input before they had come out that we are going scientific and it's going to be within this period. Because this is now what is bringing question. Everybody is getting shocked. How possible it? Because if they had participated, given in their input, they would have understood. People would have made explanations, sensitized the people, then would go for it.
Okay. Let me come to Madam Rita here. Let's talk about the flexibility of things in this country. It appears as if we are working under some sort of dictatorship of process. That we cannot do this against. Even the ruling party, for which many people have fought, control things, are struggling to come up with how they're going to fit in. Does this affect the citizen understanding of the whole process? And then finally we realize we've never really been there. Can't we get flexible with the things we do for this country?
I think, as I said earlier on, we were all caught off guard, unawares. This is unprecedented. It is something about public health.
Yeah.
Very contagious, very dangerous. So you to a certain extent, you will understand leaders. But also, they cannot use that. They can't use the pandemic as an excuse not to follow a process that is clearly stipulated in law.
Yes.
And so I think what is lacking in this case is the process of consultation for people to appreciate that they are part of it. You know, the effect of the pandemic is not only for leaders to make that decision. So people needed to have been consulted on the process. Now we are here as a nation. How are we going to manage this? There are many people out there, religious leaders, cultural leaders, civil society, political parties, that could have been consulted to come up with this process. Remember that the Electoral Commission, just before we had the first case in Uganda in March, we were hearing this in the other parts of the country, but in Uganda we had the first case in March, then we had the lockdown in the third week of March. Yeah. And at that time, the Electoral Commission already had a clear roadmap. There was already a process that was ongoing, the voters registry, preparations for special interest groups, including even for the LCs, the members of parliament, and the presidential elections. They had a clear roadmap.
All right.
And that was disrupted. First of all, an election is not a one-day thing. It's planned over time. So you can sympathize with the Electoral Commission, the disruption that this has had to have.
Yes.
And I want to repeat that this disruption was not their making. What they needed to do right and make good was to bring in the citizenry, bring in other leadership to be part of this decision making. Yes, they have. You've seen them in the media. They say it is their right, it is their responsibility to come up with a roadmap. Of course, they manage and administer elections. It is their right. But leadership, the leadership they offer is leadership for citizens. So they cannot say because the law provides power to them, they will take absolute power.
All right. Thank you. Honorable, the citizens have not wholesomely welcomed the idea. Initially, it was a curiosity that people were trying to find out how is this going to happen and what will happen. When we finally found out it's going to happen without campaigns, it's going to proceed without musicians coming to entertain us. The question was, how do we go ahead with such a thing? Because that then means that as people, one, we're not earning from the elections, which is a big business. Number two, we are only sending money to media houses where we don't exist. So that's also another big thing. People used to get clothes in very poor places, what you people call voter bribery. Some people call finally finding a T-shirt. Now all these are being taken away. Did you feel that the citizens are justified to fight this because it's not in their interest, especially now?
They're right. I was in my constituency meeting a group of 10 women.
Okay.
And one of them asked me that, Honorable, is it true that elections are going to be carried over radios and televisions and like that? I said, yes. I said, now how are we going to go about it? There are things that you people used to do during campaigns in terms of a lot of handouts. Some people would give cash, those T-shirts, those other things. Now you mean this time we are going to miss it? I said, yeah, because also one of the issues we are talking about is stopping buying people to vote for leaders, but you're supposed to say, no, that's not correct. So the truth is, the whole thing has changed. Because elections comes with a lot of businesses and a lot of activities around it for all groups of people. And when people now realize you get from your home, you listen to a candidate over the radio, or you watch television, or you read newspapers, or you online on your phone and internet, and that's all about it. They're actually refusing, not because sometimes they want those material things, but it is something new. They were accustomed to the kind of politics where it was part of a lot of fun, a lot of showing off. But this time, to go quite like that, people are looking at it like, this is strange. It is something we are not used to. So why don't we fight and ensure that the elections are conducted, but under a condition and environment that we are used to, and we believe that is the best to show we have participated.
Or why don't we just postpone altogether? That's another question that they ask.
Now, the question of postponement is there in some groups, but other groups are also saying no.
All right, we'll come back to that. Ladies and gentlemen watching us from wherever you are, we're coming back after this short break. Stay here. This is Face the Citizens. Welcome back to this edition of Face the Citizens, and we are talking scientific polls. My name remains Jacob Beyeru, and we are now going to get an interjection from someone that should be familiar, except that he is often doing research. Mr. Martin Okumu is the National Coordinator, Research and Policy of the latest party in the land, the Alliance for National Transformation. And we'd like to ask him very quickly, Mr. Martin, there is an understanding that politics rolls with some pomp. An arrival is greeted with a presence of people, and that perhaps forms what would then provide for a good beginning. Unfortunately for you, you're beginning with a scientific election. Coming from your research and policy background, what do you think about this? Is this good for the ANT? But then secondly, and probably most importantly, is it good for Uganda?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I can tell you that we are very positive. At Alliance for National Transformation, we know very well the ground will never be level in Uganda. So whatever we do, we are cognizant of that fact. I'm very lucky that yesterday we were at Electoral Commission and we presented a lot of issues that needs to be addressed. But as a new party, we are the 29th party registered in Uganda, we look forward to electronic or scientific election, as they call it, because this is an opportunity that as a new party, for the first time, we shall reach out to the people of Uganda to tell them what we are there for, what will be in our manifesto, what are the new things we are bringing on the political arena. And we are very happy we shall do that.
You speak very optimistically, and of course that's something that has become a trademark of your party. But with more reality, I will tell you that you will not reach all the Ugandans through the media. Do you intend to settle for less? Perhaps you're interested in only urban centers, or are you intending to actually meet people in Abim, in Zombo, and all the way to Zeu, down to Kabale, and back all the way to Budadiri and Bududa? Are you intending for those people, or you're fine with people that only speak English?
Well, we need to start with the facts. There are 260 radio stations in Uganda.
Yes.
There are 40 television stations in Uganda. About 30% of Uganda are connected on the social media.
Yes.
Electricity coverage is only 27% of the people of Uganda. So these are the facts that we even presented to Electoral Commission yesterday. They know it, we know it, and there must be a proactive approach to solving some of these problems. There are parts of Uganda, if you go to Amudat, if you go to Karenga, if you go to Kisoro, they cannot pick even any radio signal within Uganda. For instance, if you're in Amudat, you will have to put your messages through stations in Kenya. They get Kenya's radio more. So those challenges are there. Okay. But nevertheless, the people who will receive messages through the scientific means will receive it. And we believe the multiplier effect will be there if I put my messages very clear in several media outlets. It will resonate, and people on their own will multiply these messages through opinion leaders, through people they interact with, and it will be there. Okay. The only biggest problem we have is that time is so limited. By the time we go for nominations and then we begin campaign, election would be just about 4 months.
But the good thing is that from your opening statement, the ground is never leveled. The first thing that they have leveled is the time. Everyone has the same time. So should that be a problem, Mr. Okum?
It is a great problem because before I came in, you were discussing, media ownership. And this media ownership will determine allowing people to come to their, whether radio station or television station. And even Electoral Commission, they actually acknowledge that they cannot guarantee that all the media outlets will equitably or at least objectively allow candidates to go there.
All right.
That will depend on Uganda Communication Commission. That will also depend on Ministry of Information to set up new regulations that will compel even private radio stations or television stations to allow people.
Do you feel like they are listening, the Electoral Commission? Because clearly
they do.
They are listening.
They do. They acknowledge the problem because you see what is also at stake for them is that there must be at least credible election.
Okay.
It may not be completely free and fair, but at least a bare minimum level of credibility has to be there. So as the organization overseeing the election, they must ensure that.
All right, thank you. I'm sure that they are listening and watching, and I hope that they share your mind with the credibility question, because without COVID, they have fallen short before. We don't know whether with a pandemic, they will now match up to credibility. But let's take more questions from the audience. The gentleman at the front.
Yes, my name is Samson Okwakol. I have two questions to the two panelists in front. First to the MP. What is Parliament doing, especially? Like last week, you were up in arms when they were trying to create new constituencies and you stopped because you were not aware how it came about. But when you look at this electoral roadmap, you're very silent on it. Is it because it favors you, and what is the plan? Then to Madam the Executive Director, you have already expressed a worry that many women and girls will be left out. What is the way forward? Have you just folded your arms? Are you negotiating as the
civil society? Okay. Let's start with civil society. Are you negotiating? Do you even have power to negotiate?
Yes, we do.
Whom do you represent? Those are some of the questions.
Yes, we do. Civil society is recognized in this country, and NGOs in particular are recognized in this country. And I must say, we make a great deal of contribution to national development. That goes without saying. So yes, we are concerned, and that's why I guess you called me here.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've seen us out there raising these issues. It was civil society that came out very, very clearly to raise concern when these issues were raised. We compliment government. We compliment the Electoral Commission. Yeah. Civil society does a lot of voter education, which is a responsibility of the Electoral Commission, and they know that. We do a lot of civic education, which is a responsibility of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. So
what's the plan for you in this one?
So I just want to go back to what Mr. Okumu said. I'm a bit for lack of a better word, disappointed that the political parties, I don't know whether it's all, but if that is what Ant is settling for, that it's okay for us to go with the digital full swing, I think then our leaders are really duping this country. Because before he came in, we talked about all the challenges that exist. Preconditions. You have issues of accessibility, affordability, and availability. Let it be electricity, let it be social media, let it be the cost of radio, the cost of television. This is something that is out of the reach for over 80%.
No, but political actors will tell you that if there is a political activity, we are mandated to participate. How we participate and what we say when we're participating is perhaps paying the piper, and we are not exactly going about it the normal way this time. So we should probably participate one way. Dr. Kiza Besigye has often said we go to the polls not to win, but to participate.
Well, that's not my understanding of what political parties are.
Okay.
My understanding for why you form that, and that's the difference between political parties and civil society or NGOs.
Yeah.
NGOs and civil society are development oriented. They are political, but development oriented politically.
Okay.
Partisan politics, their major goal is to take power.
Yeah.
So if they are participating for their sake, then we don't have political parties in this country. A political party is formed on the principle, and their major outcome goal is to ensure that they take power. So if they are really saying they are participating, then that is not the partisan politics I know.
All right.
So going back to the question of whether we should go on or not, I said it before. The elections can go on considering the situation and the stake that we are in. We are not a country that is fully fledged with technology. We must accept that. We are not a country, you have Ugandans who live under $2 a day.
Yeah.
You have people who, you're talking about TV stations, which are about 30, 200 and something radio stations. You're talking about electrification, which is not even at 50%, which is not stable. There are cities that are still running on generator. We are talking about gender issues here, women, youth, disability. How are the blind going to be watching this TV? How are the deaf going to be listening to these radio stations? Who are you organizing this election for? What mechanisms have you put in place? And we have proposals. We have comparatives.
All right, let's hear them.
In the last few months, we've had elections in Burundi. We've had elections in Malawi just a few weeks ago. And people were able to interact. By the way, I don't know how many of you during this lockdown or ease of lockdown have stepped out of Kampala.
Yeah.
Life is almost normal in other, even if you haven't gone out of Kampala.
So
just go downtown.
So we should abandon this whole conservatism.
I'm not saying let's abandon. Let's devise means and mechanisms.
Okay.
Right now, people are having meetings. Parliament has been sitting. We have close to 500 members of Parliament.
Okay.
Although they don't all sit in the same place. Why can't we have town hall meetings? Why can't we have regulations where you say we can have maybe 50 people, 100 people, village meetings, door-to-door meetings? This can be done with, you have soap, you have sanitizers, government has spent so much money on masks. Why are we spending on these masks if we can't face the people?
All right.
I want to, and I've been speaking to women around this country in the last 2 weeks, women who want to run, women politicians, and they're saying things are hard. We don't even know what you people are talking about. We don't use WhatsApp. We don't know your Instagram. We don't know your Facebook.
Okay.
How are we going to manage? I think our leaders in Kampala, who are already advantaged, who are already privileged, should not sit here but go to the countryside. Otherwise, we are going to get leaders who are going to serve themselves and not the people.
All right, thank you.
There are alternatives, and we must explore those alternatives.
Great. Let's talk to Parliament.
We can still use social media.
Yes.
It must be a combination.
Okay, let's talk to Parliament now. interestingly, when they gave you iPads, Honorable Ayo, you still needed to print documents for your State of the Nation address and so on and so forth. This social media thing, it seems like something people pay attention to. When we are counting access, we are counting people that subscribe to it. Is Parliament doing anything as a people's representative in this journey that we are struggling with? Because everyone is trying to make sense of it, and we think Parliament, which is charged with making laws and amending those laws, is best placed to do something. Are you doing anything?
Yeah, thank you. There are now two questions for Parliament, but the question of members of Parliament using printed copies of State of the Nation's address and so on when they have the iPad comes from the fact that when we are going for the State of Nation's address or even the budget, majorly has been in Sherena, where the president is there. All the electronics are collected away from people.
Oh, okay.
The iPads, the phones, and so on. So definitely that's why
that is almost what happens everywhere he is, even on rallies.
Everywhere.
So, also taking
then
away
if
phones.
you are to follow, you need a printed copy.
Okay.
But currently you are aware Parliament is operating virtual also. There are members of Parliament who do not need to go to Parliament, but they participate in debate, they participate in everything. We're already taking on that. But the truth is, our commitment to using technology has been low as a country, and we have not developed it much. And these are the questions we are saying, by the time we are going for the scientific elections, it needed quite a number of things to have been put in place, which is not there. And that is what is causing the challenge and all these questions, right from...
So now that we know that, what is Parliament doing about it?
Now, for Parliament, we have provided for all this. The laws is there. It is now government to put money to ensure that they roll out the use of social media, the computer, everything, internet everywhere. That's now the role of God, but we have provided everything. Now, I'm also getting to this question of whether Parliament is doing anything since the roadmap was presented by Electoral Commission. I'm saying yes. Without Parliament, by now, maybe Electoral Commission would have pushed people into things that would be wondering whether the world is normal. But because of all these questions that has been put by Parliament, that's why, first of all, ensure that all the legal instruments are in place so that we don't go for election, that one person will get to court and the election is overturned right from president to everybody, and we get down. So that's why even the Electoral Commission is talking of going to benchmark in countries like Malawi, Burundi that have already conducted elections. But I don't know whether those countries they are going to benchmark in were doing scientific or they were physically moving.
Well, we can tell you right now they didn't do scientific.
But they're still saying they're going to, so that they may come back and
we
reconsider.
Honorable, we need to pause here and then we'll come back. This is Face the Citizens, and as you can hear, science has always been a problem in schools. It's now a problem in elections. We will continue after this short break. Welcome back to this edition of First the Citizens. Scientific elections are becoming the headache in this country, but we are going to be able to handle that with propositions from this panel. How best can we go about them without jeopardizing our march to democratic idealism? And we'll start with Madam Rita here. And Madam, it's now, at least we have now agreed that we don't have the power. Whether we're in civil society, we have advice, we have proposals, but we don't have the power. So let's use the opportunity for advice and tell the Electoral Commission something. How do we make sure, as the custodians of the democratic ideals of our future, how do we make sure that our people actually go through this with some democracy, having seen that we have no way out?
I want to disagree that we don't have power or way out. As citizens, we do. The rights belong to the people.
But we can't gather, we can't march to Parliament, we can't do anything apart from behave.
That's not true. It is us who actually make that happen. We are citizens of this country, and the Constitution recognizes that. Whoever leads us is leading a citizenry. He or she does not lead themselves, whether it's an institution, and that is something as citizens we really need to start talking about.
So we should talk about that option as well.
Yes, so there's nobody who sits in an office who leads themselves, unless as citizens we have rendered ourselves to that level. So I don't think I belong to the group that is powerless.
In this situation,
no.
All right.
We just need to build the citizenship of our people, citizen capacity.
Okay.
On the issue of money in the elections, I think we've all known it's not only a women's issue. The culture of money and electioneering that is very expensive. There's already a projection that for you to be a member of parliament, you need to have not less than 500 million. I don't know where these people get this type of money. But I think it's a very, very bad culture. It has brought into leadership people who do not care for the citizenry. Because as my sister said, the people who are out there who actually care for the citizenry do not get to the leadership positions because they don't have money. So it is how much money you have that brings you.
Are you saying the ones that have money don't care?
Many of them don't. Many of them
Honorable,
don't.
I hope you're listening.
Many of them don't.
Coming back to
Honorable might be an exception, and there are many good ones out there. There are many good ones out there, but there are many who don't care. Because if I have put in 500 million and I have 5 years in parliament, I have to double that money or even triple it before I even think about you. So that is how, unfortunately, our elections and our leadership has been so commercialized. And this has not spared us as the citizens as well.
What other proposals can we make to this Electoral Commission?
I want to complete that this culture has not spared the citizenry. We have become so demanding that the MPs also have to hike their price so that they're able to meet our needs. So the issue of money is not just the leaders, but it's also the citizenry, because we have pushed the MPs or the councillors to the wall to start giving us money instead of us working for our money. And that culture is something as civil society we're trying to do away with. Members of parliament or councillors have 3 key roles: legislation, oversight, and representation. But not doing all these other things they do for us. And that's what makes them look for money even at times when they are not supposed to do that. Now, on the way forward, what needs to be done? I have already elaborated, and I'm glad the Electoral Commission is listening in. Yes, we are squeezed with time, and of course, the pandemic ate some of their time. At the beginning, I said by March, they already had a clear roadmap. That time was eaten up, and they're trying to catch up with time. What we need to do is join hands with the Electoral Commission and all the other political parties to come up with workable, and as my brother said, solutions that will make the elections credible.
They'll tell you that that's what they're giving you, what is workable. A solution.
According to them, but you can still hear the voices that do not agree with them. So they need to bring others on board. Now they are listening to civil society, they are listening to political parties, and with that, I'm sure certain adjustments can be made. We are not saying digital is wrong, but we are saying in the current situation, and what we are seeing in the country, the investment government has made in the masks, in providing sanitizers, in the education that has been provided. People have the information. We can still combine digital with other mechanisms. We can use the radios, we can use community theater, we can use town hall meetings. If you want, we can even use the football pitches, the churches, for all that. That combination can be made for this election to be credible. We are very, very certain that the fundamentals of a credible election must be followed. And this must be reflected in the free expression of the people. So for us to achieve this, we have to adhere to the issues of freedom of movement, freedom of association, and freedom of assembly. These are things that will make this election credible. It is not just conducting, as I said, it's not just about ticking a box.
All right. It seems like the one you've ticked is freedom to fight against the guidelines against COVID, because these credentials are just exactly the opposite of COVID guidelines.
No, they are not.
Okay.
Right now we are associating. Here we are associating. Are we breaking the guidelines? No.
Perhaps
That's
not.
why we are sitting this distance.
But those are only 3 votes. But okay.
No, the audience is out there. People are in the markets.
All right.
People are in the markets. People are in the shops, in the malls, and the arcades. People on the streets. We could do road, this truck or move with. In Kampala here, we call them Muzindalo.
Yeah.
We could do village announcements. There are so many options that we have.
Thank you. Let's come to you, Mr. Martin Okumu from the Alliance for National Transformation. Voting is not a conscription. People can turn 18, become eligible to vote, but be in the bigger percentage of things in this country, which is the percentage that decides that why should I struggle in the sun if I can sit at home and wait for the results? There's another good majority that thinks that we vote for fun to complete the process. The results are usually already declared. They are only awaiting to be publicly declared. Some people think that way. Do you think that we should be bothered so much by voter turnout as we go forward? Because that's something that usually comes up in elections. We never really have the voter turnout we want.
Well, first of all, we need to do a lot of voter education.
Okay.
And I think, aside from campaign, all actors, all stakeholders, all political parties should go out to educate people that you need to participate. It is very unfortunate, in 2016, 40% of voters didn't turn up. Only 60% voted. As ANT, we are targeting that 40% that did not vote. We are doing research why they have refused to come and vote. And we want to convince them to vote for us.
Just for clarity, is ANT intending this for 2021 or for some other time?
Both.
Okay.
For 2021, I can assure you we are going to fill all positions. We want all positions from sub-county, from constituency to the district, up to presidential level. We are going to fill candidates. And for you to do that, you need to mobilize the voters.
Yes.
These 40% that did not vote is our target. We want to convince them that please participate. In any case, even if you don't vote, what the 60% will have voted will affect you.
Yes.
Even if you stay at home, politics will get you from where you are. So you rather participate, even if the participation may not be 100% very good.
Okay.
But I want to support the idea, and I think Electoral Commission is also supporting it. We are now waiting for Parliament to cabinet to act, that some of the measures, some of the suggestions we are making now through extensive consultation should be taken into consideration.
Yes.
Things like town hall meeting should be allowed. If I have a stadium near where I want to campaign and there is maximum space for social distancing, we should allow people to do that. There should also be joint candidates debate.
Okay.
We can come to this studio and then we conduct joint candidates debate.
On whose media?
On any media that can be allowed. I think it
because
is
someone needs to pay for my media house to do that. Yeah, so
we can
who's paying
share
for
the
that?
cost, we can split the cost.
Okay.
Electoral Commission can also support us in that area. But joint candidate, where you get a theme and the candidates will come and debate.
All right.
To me, I think that is the way out. So there are so many exploratory activities that needs to be taken into account to allow people participate, to allow candidates present themselves, to allow us reach the people, and also the people should ask tough questions. If you're a candidate, what are you going to do? We need to extensively use community media, music, dance, and drama. I should be allowed to compose, traditional songs in my name if I'm campaigning, and I should be able to disseminate it to the people.
Thank you so much.
That should be allowed.
Thank you so much. Honorable Ayo, many will say that in bad circumstances, we have the best chances of innovation. We might be here now, and we are going into a digital election that we are scared of. But when we go through it, do you think we should then, if it comes out successfully, do you think we should then think about that in the future? Because there are very many positives out of it in terms of budget lines and so on and so forth. Do you think it's something that if it turned out well, we should move further for our democracy, with or without pandemics?
I do believe in that because it will save us quite a lot of things.
Okay.
Sometimes in Uganda, we do campaigns throughout the 5 years and then get into the other year, distorting people from their activities all the time. But once we get digital, then you can do it every day, every minute, but to take the knowledge, information, and also put in your brain on what you think should be there. And people will take whatever comes out of there as the way people should do things.
So if this comes out well, it should become the new norm?
We definitely need to take on that. A question was raised, members of parliament going out to benchmark in South Africa on elections where there's a party list. A party would choose its candidates for various places. Then in the campaign, you don't go as a you or as a Rita, but you'll take the party like ant with your symbol, and people will elect the party. Then the party knows the persons who are going to fill these other positions are the following.
What is happening here is that there's a proposition from the ruling party that the party executives should vote for the candidates to hold the party's flag. It's almost the same, but not entirely parliamentary system.
Yeah, not parliamentary system. Currently, because of the COVID, that you can't get out, you can't mobilize people in public rallies. So the party is trying to bring that kind of thing. So these issues of commercializing campaigns where those ones who really would think and care about the people cannot get opportunity, I think all those would come. But with the going digital and scientific, I think everybody would have the platform. So to me, I think that would be okay. But even when we are trying to find out if it is possible, then we must do it in the right way. So I would think Electoral Commission must ensure that when we are going scientific, then it's for everybody.
Yes.
But if it will favor other people, that other people, when we are talking of scientific, are going on ground while others are being stopped, then now that's where the problem will come in. So they must ensure that the ground is level for everybody. If everybody is sitting on television, over television or using radio, then must be everybody. The ground must be quiet for everybody to just wait for where there is a signal of radio, television. Then that was okay. Two, I think there's still time. Government can still, in areas where there are no signals in the country, to provide for the radio signals and television signals. And this one, we must vote for it because it becomes a popular view of the people of Uganda that for those ones in those places, you're not going to leave them out. Then government must come in because that's possible. Putting a radio would take us 4 weeks. The whole system is operating. And then extending this other television. Then finally, I think Electoral Commission and government must look at two things. One, if we are to go for this election in a scientific way, we need to open up somehow. Readjust on the measures that is restricting the people, but then emphasize on the standard or operating procedures that would allow people to sit and follow campaigns in their small areas. Because they need to study what is the real situation of COVID now, as we are, because we are not assuming, since it's new, to over-assume that, you may allow people to go for campaigns and people will die. That is one area. But the other area, I would say, so far we have done so well. We have the mask, we are washing hands, so let people go. But if you can't, then don't hold that election.
All right, so you're
postpone
saying there
it,
is time
give
for
it time
government
until we can do it well. Those are the things.
There is time for government to act.
Thank you.
Thank you. What we don't have time for is for this show to continue. We will be ending here now because First the Citizens is allowed only a specific amount of time. Until next time, I remain Jacob Ayeru, and thank you for being with us today on First the Citizens.